Hey everybody, this is Ben from Postfly. In this video I'll be tying Amy's Ant, which is featured in this month's trout tying box. This pattern covers a great range of big summertime bug imitations, from lingering stoneflies to classic terrestrials. We'll start by grabbing the 8/0 thread from our kit and tying it in behind the hook eye. Next I'll just lay a base down to where the hook shank starts to bend, or right above the barb. Now we'll tie in our first of 2 foam strips. The strips are already cut to width, so all we'll need to do is trim to the correct length and shape the ends. For shaping, just cut off the foam rectangle's corners and cut the ends square if they aren't already. A longer taper on whatever end will be your back looks a little more realistic, but that choice is up to you. When complete, you'll want both ends shaped as shown and your foam to be about 1.5 hook shanks in length. Foam has a tendency to roll around the shank, so I like to put a few drops of glue on my thread base right before I tie it in. When your foam piece is cut to size, lay it on top of the shank with the front end just covering the hook eye. Then make wraps over the shank covering section until the foam is secure. Now grab your black foam. Repeat the same process as you did with the pink foam, cutting the corners and squaring off the ends, but make the black foam about an extra hook shank longer. Lay the black foam on top of the pink in the same configuration. Instead of tying in the entire piece, we'll only be attaching it to the back of the fly for now, at the point just before the hook starts to bend. Make a few tight and close wraps to hold it in place. Take your strand of rubber legs and cut off 2 2-inch long sections. Wrap one section around your thread so that both ends are held evenly in your non-bobbin hand, with the legs midpoint touching the thread. Bring your bobbin up and over the hook in a wrap and slide the legs down into place. Then take a few wraps back to lock in the legs. There should be one leg angled toward the hook eye and one away. Repeat this process on the opposite side of the shank. Whether you trim your legs at the end or right after you tied them in is up to you, but I find doing them sooner is better on small dries. They tend to get in the way as you go, so I'm just going to cut them to size here. I like each of my legs to be a bit longer than a hook shank, but you can definitely keep them longer if you'd like. Just remember to cut sparingly to avoid leaving one shorter than you meant to. With legs in place, move your thread to in front of where you tied in your black foam, so it rests just on the tied in pink foam. Take your dubbing mix, pull off a small chunk, and begin twisting it into a noodle on your thread. Take touching wraps with the dubbed up thread towards the eye, adding more if needed. Tie up to the eye so that the dubbing body covers the entire shank, but take a few wraps back once you're there. Your thread should now be about an eye's length back from the eye, with no exposed thread or pink foam visible. We'll now secure the other end of our black foam. You can add another drop of glue here if you'd like, just on top of where the foam will lay. Brush back any stray dubbing or front-facing legs that might get in the way, and then tie the black foam down right where you just stopped your thread. Take a few more wraps. I like the surface area of where I tie this front piece of foam to be a little wider, just to allow for the future work we'll be doing in this small space. Now grab some flash and pull off 3 to 4 strands. Tie the flash in at about its midpoint and grab all the ends in your non-bobbin hand. Fold them all back and take a couple more wraps within where you tied in your foam to secure. Don't worry if the material isn't folded all the way into the back, as it will get pushed there when we bring the foam back in a few steps. Our last step with the flash is to clip all the ends off at about the length of our foam body. Next, grab a sparse clump of deer hair and cut it off near the base of the hide. If you have a fine comb handy, it helps to brush the small bits of fuzz out of the base of the hairs that you can see here. This will help the hair line up nicely when we go to stack it. On that subject, grab a small hair stacker and insert your deer hair tips first. Cover the open top with your finger and tap on a flat surface to sort. Once stacked, pull the tips out with your non-bobbin hand so they're facing the correct way when you go to lay them in place. Tie in the hair so that they're the same length as the flash. Make a few loose wraps to hold them in place, then tighten when you're happy with where they are. Next, trim the tag ends down. You can get them pretty short by slightly pressing your scissors into the foam so that it gives a little. These short tags will get covered up by the folded foam anyway, so there's no worries to go overboard here. The front tie down for your black foam should now feature flash and deer hair facing back towards the rear of our ant. In the next step, these materials will get pushed down further when we bring back the rest of the foam. Grab the front facing black foam and fold it back over the rest of the body. The crease should now be formed just behind the pink head of our fly. Secure this fold with a few tight wraps to form a segment that's about half the length of the head. The end of the folded piece of foam should extend to around the midpoint of the hook shank. If you need to shorten up, snip the corners again like we did earlier, or just cut the excess off square. The last step on this front section is adding another set of legs. Tie them in the same way you did before, wrapping them once over the thread and sliding them into place. Once they're both in, take a couple of wraps to secure and snip the excess. Our whip finish will be directly on top of the last wraps we did with the legs. Give yourself enough space with your thread to avoid catching on the folded foam and rubber legs. Add a drop of head cement once complete. The finished end is a versatile dry that will serve you well as an attractor or indicator in these warm months. The generous amount of foam used will keep this bug floating for days, and the buggy dubbing and legs do plenty of work for the fish below. Hope you're able to take advantage of some big bug eaters before summer is over. Thanks for watching.